Oh, hi, everyone. So welcome to the Jim's Group video version of the podcast. And today we've got a very special guest who is Tony Meredith, who does a lot of work with Jim's franchisees and franchisors around a whole bunch of stuff. And before I go and stuff up the introduction for you, Tony, how about you introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do, what your business is, and also how you help members of the Jim's family.
Firstly, thank you, Joel, for the opportunity. So Tony Meredith is my name and my business is Tony Meredith Coaching. I'm a business coach based in Brisbane and I focus on sales, leadership and mindset primarily. And you're right, I do some work with a few of the different divisions. I do a lot of work in the pool care division and have done for the last three and a half years with Brett Blair, who's the divisional head, and franchisors, franchisees, but also do some work in Handyman, Jim's Handyman, Jim's Building Inspection, and also a franchisee in Jim's Electrical. And then I've got a heap of clients outside of that as well. So, for example, today I was with a plastics manufacturer. I just hung up on a Zoom call with a lady who's got a renovation and styling business on the central coast of New South Wales, HR, service provision, a whole range of businesses. And the whole essence of what I do is to help businesses grow. And I've been doing this for 4 years. I've got a background in very large corporates, but about 4 years ago or 3.5 years ago, I decided that enough was enough, and hence have been on my own ever since.
Now, what sort of things are you doing with the Jim's franchisees?
Yeah, so for example, with Jim's Pool Care specifically, I'm working with Brett, so coaching Brett and helping him grow at his business. Even though he's a great divisional head, it's about getting him to take his business to the next level. Working with a number of the franchisors to do the same and helping them grow out. Obviously, a good franchisor business is selling franchises first and foremost, but then also becoming a leader to those people to those franchisees that are within their team. And then with franchisees, so whether it be new franchisees coming in, I spend the first 4 months with all new franchisees that come into Jim's Pool Care, and I work with them on local area marketing. And as you know, we've got the leads through Jim's that come through the 131 number, but then we also want our franchisees to do some local area marketing that complements all the stuff that Jim's is doing centrally. So I'm working with new franchisees, but then also with existing franchisees and helping them go to the next level. So that might be in sales, or that might be in growth, or a combination of both. It might be managing time, etc.
Okay, let's talk about the growth part, which is we have a lot of great franchisees who have sole man or sole woman operations, and they do make great money, but they sometimes get frustrated that they can't get to that next step. So what sort of growth strategies would you have, would you recommend for them?
Well, the biggest inhibitor of growth is time. That's the big thing. So from a solopreneur or sole trader point of view, we've got to free up some time to enable them to go and recruit, train, etc. So it's about getting to start to think a little bit differently. When you think about bringing on a new franchisee, obviously there's a commercial reality. A new employee. There's a commercial reality to that. You've got to be able to pay that particular wage. And where a lot of particularly individual or sole trading and franchisees go wrong, let's take, for example, we're going to pay someone $1,000 a week, right? So across the course of the month, that's $4,000. I normally talk about a multiplier of about 4 or 5 times. You want to be earning about sort of $16,000 or $20,000 to sustain that level of employee. What tends to happen, but is the franchisee wants to work until they get to that top line number, and then they'll start to look for a new employee, right, to help them. And what ends up happening is they get burnt out, right? And so what I say is don't go all the way. Like, go to a point where you can still comfortably live your life and pay for your own personal bills, etc. But again, the key that we want here is we want time. So by bringing someone on board, that's ultimately going to free up my time as the franchisee, which then, and that's not to take time to have a break, whilst by all means, do that every now and then or spend time with your loved ones. But that's about spending time now to further grow my business. So go and do those local area marketing initiatives, perhaps go and see, property managers, perhaps go and do some, flyer drops or whatever it might be, but I need to free up my time. Plus, of course, I've got to train my new employee that's come along. But the big opportunity is, how do I find time?
Okay. Now, do you have an example of a franchisee maybe that you've helped go from the sole entrepreneur to the multiple?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got a franchisee on the south side of Brisbane here where, in fact, he was forced into getting an employee because he injured himself, right? And so through no fault of his own, he needed to get someone on board. And so he had to focus heavily first and foremost on training up that new employee, and that's the big thing, right? It's about recognizing that as a franchisee, you work for your employee, and this is not just a franchisee thing, this is a business thing. You work for your employee, not the other way around. So we've got to change our mindset and recognize that I need to train up my employee to make sure they can go and do the job. The other thing is to adjust our expectations as a franchisee. So again, if I think about this particular example, don't expect that the new employee is going to do something as well as you from day one, because you may have been doing it for the last 2, 3, 4 years. In this instance, about 5 years. And so it's a case of you've got to adjust your expectations and allow that new employee to build into their role, but provide them with clarity, provide them with support to help them from a competence point of view and to get them up to speed, but also be very patient with the fact that things do take time.
And what about finding and keeping employees? Because it's obviously a lot of our franchisees get frustrated. They might find someone good and may be hard to keep them, or just finding them in the first place. Do you have any suggestions about what they should be doing for that?
Well, yeah, sure. So they're two different things. So from a finding point of view, my advice is always start with end in mind. So start with end in mind means, who are we looking for? Because if I say I'm looking for someone, well, that's about that wide, right? It's quite right. So we want to get clear on, is there a particular someone that we're looking for? It might be a demographic, an age demographic, a gender. They might have done particular tasks in the past. So who is it first and foremost? The next question to ask is, where are they? Right, where are they hiding? So if you're looking for a young person, for example, perhaps you might be looking for a school leaver. Why not approach the local school? Particularly all around the country. It's October here in Australia. The Year 12s have only got a few months left. So why not approach the school? There might be some people that are interested in doing whatever it is that you're offering. So where are these people hiding? That's in regards to the finding. Look, there's other traditional ways through Seek and other types of opportunity, local employment offices. That's in regards to finding someone. In regards to keeping someone, recognise that money is not the reason that people stay. Now, money's important. Let's not pretend it's not. But the reason that people stay is because they feel engaged, they feel empowered, they feel that their boss, their franchisee, is treating them in an autonomous fashion, trusting them, so on and so forth. Train me, recognise me, all these types of things. They are far more important than money. But again, not denying that money's not up there.
I think another source franchisees they're part of a lot of Facebook groups. There's a lot of local Facebook groups for jobs, or just even in your suburb. So, for example, if you live in a particular area, let's say it was Cooperoo or whatever,
Yep.
Cooperoo might have a Facebook group up there.
Yep.
Generally, a post on there and saying, "Look, looking for a solid worker, blah 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 blah." You will get a few people. You might have to go through a bit of trial and error and stuff like that. And you're going to get better at maybe reading people in their messaging or whatever it is. But that's a really good source as well. It's a really quick way to do it because you don't have to pay any fees. You just put up a post and away you go.
And it's not necessarily about the direct contact. It could be the indirect contact. So, for example, someone on that Facebook group might know someone that is the person you're looking for, right? So in regards to finding people, but the clearer that you can be and the narrower that you can be on who you're looking for, the easier it is, as opposed to, hey, I'm just looking for someone. Well, again, that's incredibly wide. Whereas if I'm looking for that level of specificity around the type of person, then the easier it's going to be to direct someone your way, and also the easier it is for you as the franchisee to rule people in or rule them out. Because if you have a clear list of parameters of the types of person you're looking for, well, someone falls outside of that, well, then they're not what you're looking for. So as opposed to, hey, I'm just looking for someone with two legs, 2 arms, and a heartbeat.
Let's talk about sales, because that's what you do a lot of work with the pool care guys. And do you want to share a couple of the strategies that you're teaching to the pool care franchisees that can maybe be applied to the wider group?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I suppose one of the things about the pool care is that it's a little bit different in the sense they've got a retail element. So they make money 3 ways. So they've got the service provision, that is cleaning of pools, but then they've also got the putting in the chemicals, your salt, chlorine, etc. But the third one, and the big one, is they get to sell equipment, and everything from pumps and filters and chlorinators. So that really does add a lot to their business. But go to the general franchisees. There's 4 key ways you can grow your business, and the first one is to called basket size, and that is to, can I put something else into the basket with it? So, for example, McDonald's do this incredibly well. Go in there for a burger, you get a fries, you get a Coke. So you've gone in there and you get extra things in your basket. So again, as a franchisee, think about, is there anything else that I can put into that basket or in that shopping cart as well for that particular transaction? The other is to take up the average sale price. So can I take my price up? One of the things with a lot of the franchisees, they tend to be very scared to take the price up. I'm very big for taking the price up. Now, let's not be too silly about it, but you want to make sure that you're competitive. Gyms absolutely prides themselves on, offering great value, being punctual, guaranteed work, all those types of things. That's worth something. Don't always try to be the cheapest, right? So it's about, price appropriately and take the price up if you can. The other way that you can increase sales is through frequency. So if you're going to see a particular customer once a quarter, how can we get to see them once a month, for example? So one of the big things with the pool business, given that the pool care sales are seasonal, so you've got a peak, from sort of September through to April, and then you've got a lull over winter. Well, then the goal is to get regular clients. They'll get a lot of one-offs. People call up to, turn their green pool blue, or might be turn it, make it cloudy, go sparkly, whatever it might be. But it's how do I then convert that one-off into a regular? It's always about getting regulars. And what a regular means to me is seeing them every 4 weeks. And again, there's a little trick in that. So don't see people monthly, because there's 12 months in the year. If I see someone every 4 weeks, there's 13 of those in the year, right? So there's just little things like that I can just add a few extra percent onto my business.
Now, let's talk about one point you said then was about the pricing, which we have a lot of franchisees who are great long-term franchisees, and they might not have raised their pricing for 10 years for one particular client or even all of their clients, and they find it very, very hard. Like, I don't know, it's almost like an uncomfortable feeling to go to someone, hey, I'm taking your price, which I've done this from $30 to $35 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to talk a bit more about that mindset of maybe valuing themselves more in what they do.
Oh, that's 100% of what it is, because if someone new comes on board, then they might be happy in that instance of sort of $30. They'd be happy to charge the new person $50. And so, you might offer some recognition for someone who's been with you for 5 years or whatever it is, but it's also about getting paid for what you're worth and valuing yourself, and also recognizing that things are going up around you. So fuel's going up, raw materials are going up, different things that you're buying, wear and tear on your car, like all these other things around you are going up. So then if your income is staying flat, then you're doing yourself a disservice, right? So it's not a bad thing to take your price up. And I would argue that most people generally would understand that things go up, right? So there's Consumer Price Index, for example, but it's the lack of confidence to have that conversation because I'm worried that that person's going to leave me. But here's the thing, and I actually had this conversation with a client earlier. It's a non-gyms client. They're a manufacturing business. And we talked about the fact that they've got a large client, but they're not making much profit from it. Well, our focus is to grow the rest of our business out so we don't have the reliance on that client. So when we go for a price increase conversation, if they say they're out, well then, look, we have to make profit. That's the ultimate goal of this. You've got to make profit as a franchisee. I know that you love it, but you're also not a charity, right? So you've got to make sure that you're, profitable, making the money for you, and getting paid what it is that you're worth.
I also want to talk about sales mindset as well. So you'll have a lot of franchisees who'll get the leads from the thing, and they might say, I'm not real comfortable with sales, or maybe doing some of the stuff you're suggesting in person about the extras. Do you have any advice around that?
Yeah. So firstly, change your mindset around sales. So the majority of people see sales as the way sales was back 20 years ago, slippery people, snake oil salesmen, manipulative, etc. That's not what we are in gyms. What we are is we're adding value. We're wanting to help someone out. Someone has a problem that needs to be solved. Why not be us that can help solve that particular problem? So firstly, change your mindset around sales, because you're out there to solve someone's problem, and that's worth something. The other thing with sales is don't give up too soon. So you might get an inquiry come through, you might call them once, might call them twice, they haven't answered, you sort of throw the hands in the air and say, well, that they're not interested. People are busy, right? We're all busy doing plenty of stuff, and I have demonstrated time and time again that it can take, 3, 4, 5, even more calls before someone will answer you back. And so it's a case of don't give up too soon, because the person called up or inquired originally for a reason. It's stick with it. It's worth it. The other thing too is that if you lose a job, right, so you get the lead come through, you quote the job and you miss out for whatever reason, don't give up on that lead either. Because again, perhaps they've gone and chosen someone based on price. But as we know, price is not always guarantee a great service. So you might touch base with that person in a month or so's time and say, hey, how did you go with such and such? Just seeing if you had a positive experience. Look, they might say, yes, they did. Thank you so much. And you know what? That's fine. But because they've chosen on price, and it's happened plenty of times with the pool care guys and girls, is that they've then got an opportunity to come back around and actually tidy up what the previous person did.
That's a very good point and tactic there. And I definitely encourage franchisees to do that, because they might be people who shop on price and they get burnt, and I should have used the gym's guy or girl.
It happens all the time, but what we tend to think, and I'm saying generally what we think, is that, oh, well, I've missed that job, feel a bit down about it, and I sort of move on. And what I always encourage people to do is to not give up on that. The other thing too is that you may have had customers that have used your service in the past. Maybe they haven't used you for 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a couple of years. It's important to stay in touch with those customers, because the hardest sale is getting on a new customer, right? Because you've got to build a relationship. There's three things: know, like, and trust, right? You've got to build this know, like, and trust relationship. Someone that's used you in the past, you've delivered amazing service, amazing value to them, but for whatever reason they've decided not to use your services. They already know you, they already like you, they already trust you. Perhaps they've just been busy doing other things. Maybe they took it on themselves, but they're now at a point where they need someone to help them. Reach out to those people. Reach out to those people that are in your database, because it's an easier sale. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's an easier sale than looking to get on new customers all the time.
Now let's segue into time management. So
Yep.
Advice do you have around time management? We have a lot of franchisees who might get through a lot of jobs in the day, or might get stuck regarding not managing their time properly. So from your experience, what's some advice that you can provide for them?
So for time management, firstly at the high level, there's two things with time. There's quantity time, that is how much time do I have? And then there's quality time, that is how do I make sure that I'm being as productive as I possibly can? Because just because you have the time available, there's plenty of people who are busy doing stuff that they might not necessarily be productive. If I look back to what I said earlier at the start around how do we go from being a franchisee on my own to getting in an employee, there's a couple of things that you want to challenge yourself to free up more time. So, for example, one is either I just do it myself, but that doesn't necessarily help. That doesn't help free up more time. Another one is, can I outsource a particular task? So, for example, we might be mowing all day and then have to come home and do the books. Well, can we outsource the books, for example? So we don't necessarily have to go and get an employee straight away. But is there parts of my day that I can get somebody else to do? Can I outsource some local marketing, maybe a little bit of, doing some posts on a Facebook group or whatever it might be, some really basic things? Can I outsource some of that? When I do have an employee, could I delegate? The other thing is, can I automate certain things? Are there parts of my business that we can set up in an automatic fashion? So go back to what I said before around connecting with my database. Can I set up an automated email that then might send an email out once a month or once every 2 months, just that says, g'day, adds a bit of value, talks about, I know that in pool care, as we were coming into winter, we had a bit of a push on heat pumps, for example. And also, as we're coming into spring, we talk about what are some of the things that we can be doing to get your pool, swim ready. So just do that in an email, just add some value. But there are things that you can automate. And the last one is stop. I'll bet there's plenty of things that we do in our day that we just have to say no to. Unfortunately, we keep saying yes. So let's go through a bit of a process to ascertain, is there someone that I can give stuff to, or it might be certain tasks, or can I automate things, or do I just have to stop and say no?
There's some great advice. There's some really good software. I know, for example, some franchisees, they use tools like what we call Zapier. Zapier basically links a whole bunch of apps, and they get a new lead in, and it triggers off an email straight away to the client and does a few other things as well. Especially with backlist emails, there's a lot of MailChimp and MailerLite and stuff. And great thing with MailChimp, it's for free up to 1,000 subscribers. So most franchisees might not have a mailing list bigger than 1,000 people. So you can always use that tool for free. It's very intuitive as well.
And it's about just getting started, isn't it, with a lot of that stuff? And start small. Let's not try and do everything all at once. It's like just pick one of those things. So I love the fact you're talking about all those integrations and MailChimp. Just get one email out to your database, and you'd be surprised. Like if you've got a database of, let's say it's 500, if we get 1% come back to us, that's 5. That could be 5 customers that haven't seen us for a while that go, you know what? Oh, that's right. Jim's mowing or Jim's dog wash, whoever it was. Yes, I've been meaning to get in touch with so-and-so. Again, we're busy, right? So it's just a nice, gentle reminder.
Yeah, I think it's such a better list as well because they've met you before or they've used you before, right? It's not a cold list at all. So you can do SMS as well. So SMS Burst is a really good tool. You can buy a bunch of SMS credits for like $100.
Yep.
And you basically send a mass text message as well. But I think that's a really good point. Just be proactive, and you'll be surprised. But because you've got a customer base which already met you, it's going to be such an easier win than what it will be if it was a cold thing. So
and this is the majority of businesses. This is outside of gyms. People tend to go for the shiny and new. Right? It's like, I want to get this new customer. And how do I get on new customers? Because they're shiny and new and they're exciting. But there's this pot of gold that's sitting in your database that you haven't spoken to for a while, and it doesn't have to be verbal communication like you've just talked about, Joel. It can be written communication through text, whatever. But there's this pot of gold in your database. So let's leverage that because it's an easier sell than trying to get new people on board.
Yeah, and we know from franchisees who do, let's say, email mail outs, just let's say before winter, and I've got this going on or whatever it is. Might be a small database of 60 to 50 people, but they get, $5,000 jobs, $3,000 jobs. Just from that prompt, as you said, they see that Jim's, I know that bloke from Jim's, bang, will give him a call. And happens all the time.
The simplest solutions are often the best.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about looking after yourself. Now, we've come out of lockdown in Melbourne, and other places have as well. And one thing I've been hearing from franchisees is they're just overwhelmed with the leads coming in, and everyone's trying to book in, and people have booked out for 3 months, and there's a lot of stress going on. So what's some advice do you have for people around that?
Yeah, well, the first thing with overwhelm, regardless if it's overwhelm at work or at home or just in life generally, is don't try and solve it in your head. So I get too many people who come to me who are trying to solve things in their head, and it doesn't work that way. So my biggest piece of advice with overwhelm is write stuff down, right? Or capture it. It doesn't have to be handwriting, but capture it somewhere, the things that you've got to do. Then it's about prioritize that list of things that you've got to do, and then just work your way through the list. Just do one thing. I had this conversation a few hours ago where there's a whole lot of stuff that this client wants to do in their factory, but it's like, identify the list. Let's just start with the top one, and let's methodically work our way down the list. And you'll have far greater success by doing that. The other thing to do as well is when you accomplish something, remind yourself. So remind yourself, I call it reward every effort. So reward every effort, it's how we increase positive reinforcement. We as humans love to feel good about things, right? We love to get a little something because we've done a task. There's nothing better than having something on the list, putting the highlighter through it or ticking that off, and just that sense of accomplishment that, you know what, I've done that task. Yes, there's other things I've got to do, but it's about just recognizing, you know what, it feels good to do that, and now let's get on to the next thing.
Now, I want to talk about your business coaching itself, and why do you think people or franchisees should engage a business coach? What could you do to help them?
Yeah, because we can see, or I can see specifically, where I can see things that a franchisee or a franchisor or a divisional can't see, in the sense of quite often they get caught up in the wood, can't see the wood for the trees, right? So you get caught up in your own business. You've got all the various, like you said, the overwhelm and things flying around everywhere, and you can't see some of the solutions. And so for someone like me, I'm able to sit at a distance. I come in and I can identify things very, very quickly. Also, I'm able to break things down very simplistically and create a plan, an action plan of things to do. So I have a little process where when we go and set goals, we go and set a goal, but you want to start with the end in mind. And so the end in mind means it might be 6 months. What do I want my business to look like? And I call this business by design. Then you figure out where I am now, and in between the two is a gap. Now, GAP for me is an acronym for Goal Achievement Plan. So it's not about setting goals. It's what I've got to go and do to achieve them. It's all about just taking action. That's the biggest thing. It's about putting into practice the things that we know. So I'm able to help people move forward. I work heavily on the mindset side of things, Joel, because there's this thing called the knowing-doing gap. So the knowing-doing gap is, I know what I should be doing, but I'm just not doing it, right? And in between those two is where I add enormous value, because I'm able to then work my way through and understand, what is it that's holding you back? What's the thing that's preventing you from implementing the stuff that you know, because you know your business needs such and such. You know that you should go and do some local area marketing, maybe go and see a property manager, et cetera, but you're just not doing it. And then what you tend to do is you go, I had no time, right? So that's the single biggest excuse. And I'm not suggesting that people aren't busy, but it comes down to, it's a priority issue, right? So when something's important enough, well, then we tend to find time for that, right? And so it's about, in that knowing-doing gap, that's how I can really add significant value. And also I've got 25 years of business experience at an incredibly high level, and I'm able to then help identify and create, whether it be sales and marketing strategies, help someone from a time point of view, manage staff, grow teams, etc.
Also think from an accountability point of view, having you as, let's say, an accountability, I've got to be accountable to Tony, right? He's giving me all this stuff. I feel guilty if I don't give it a crack at least. Having that as itself as well is worth it.
Oh, look, without question. And I get a lot of clients. So typically I'll see a client every 2 weeks. And so I get a lot of clients who'll tell me that a couple of days before they'll have this oh shit moment. It's like, oh gosh, we're going to see him in a couple of days. I better scramble and do all this stuff. That's okay in the short term, but the ultimate goal is personal accountability, right? So that is, get yourself accountable. Don't do it because of me. Do it because it's the right thing to do for your business. By all means, if seeing me is going to help give you a little bit of extra motivation, but how about we implement things that are going to be right for your business?
Now, let's plug your business. So how do people get in contact with you, and what's the best way to do it?
Absolutely. So they can jump onto my website. So it's tonymeredithcoaching.com.au. Jump onto the website. Alternatively, I'm on all the social media platforms. Again, Tony Meredith Coaching. Or alternatively, reach out to Brett Blair in at Jim's Pool Care, and he knows where to find me. So I see Brett and Kelly often, and the Pool Care team.
No worries. So thanks for all that advice. Is there anything you want to leave us with I haven't asked you about, or anything you
No, look, the ultimate. No, so I just want to reinforce that the ultimate success in business, and this is generally speaking, is implementing the things that you know. So I call it implementation over information. So in 2021, there's so many places you can get information. It's amazing. Like even just in the gym system, like you guys provide enormous amounts of information for all the franchisees, franchisors, etc. It's about implementation over information. So we've got to do the things that we know we should be doing.
No, that's great. We'll leave it there, Tony. So I'll put the links in the notes on how you can find Tony. So thanks for giving up your time, Tony, today. I really appreciate it. I encourage you, if you are a franchisee or divisional or anyone else and want to get in contact with Tony, please take him up on the offer. And I'm sure, you're still working with a lot of franchisees and Zors from the start. So that speaks for itself.
Thank you, mate. Really appreciate it. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Tony. No worries.
Thank you.